Cast and Chill is a cozy and relaxing game about fishing with your best friend in the world. But today I will take it to the next level by completing 100% of the Steam achievements. This means I will have to catch the biggest fish without looking beneath the water, attempt to haul up all legendary fish, and of course, show my dog some good old down-home loving. So come with me as I 100% cast and chill. Before I start my fishing career, I need to pick out my fishing outfit and which one of my best buds I will take with me on the adventure of a lifetime. I choose a pretty basic outfit as I'm a pretty basic guy. And although I did buy the add-on for this, where I can choose a Malamute or a cat to bring along with me, I went with the classic Golden Retriever. So now that I've done my prep, I am ready to fish. I started my journey right away, just me and my dog Hog. Today, Hog and I are taking our small dory out onto the Golden Fork River, and more specifically, the Fork section. Here, there are 5 kinds of fish I must catch before moving on to the next location. So with my little guppy fishing rod and bobber attached, I paddle out a little ways, cast it out, and luckily caught my first fish of the trip, a threadfin shad. Not a very big fella, but that's alright. I'm sure some of my viewers can relate. This gives me the Gone Fishing achievement. Now, some of my achievements didn't show up right away. It wasn't until I quit the game that some of them actually showed up. So some will actually slide onto the screen here, but I'll have a whole screenshot of them later, so don't you worry. I go on to catch a few more before filling up my small inventory and heading back to the dock. When I pull up, the fish are automatically sold for me, which is great and gives me more time to look around the shop and see how the old fellow Rusty is holding up. Here, I can purchase new rods, lures, and fishing licenses for different areas. So safe to say, I need to do a lot of fishing before I can buy everything here. Heading back out, I start casting my reel and pulling in what I can. I eventually get told that I can change the time of day, which is great because I was getting a little tired of night fishing. I accidentally slept all day until the sunset, which I didn't mean to do, but regardless, it gave me the achievement nap time. With 2 out of 24 achievements out of the way, I catch a boatload more fish before buying a new lure. This lure is great for catching smallmouth bass and brown trout, which I can easily find in this part of the river. Once I had $100, I bought my second rod, and this one was so much better for catching bigger fish. There's this great feature that if you cruise over a fish that your current rod and lure configuration can catch, Hog will stand up and bark at the water. How handy. I ended up also catching some walleye. Then I switched back to my bobber to catch the final fish of this part of the river. Oh, I also upgraded my rod with the money I earned and maxed my small boat's inventory. I can now hold up to 8 fish. When I got back to the docks, Rusty was quite impressed with my fishing abilities. So impressed in fact that he told me about another spot up the river I could check out. So that night I headed to the Beaver Dam. This is where I learned I could pet Hog, so I spent a little bit of time giving him my full attention and affection for being such a good boy. This would now be the Good Friends achievement. Although it wouldn't show up till later because of the bug, this is definitely where I got it, because I pet him so much. Initially, this location was pretty bunk for me, as even with the gear I had an awful time trying to catch anything the first try. The only thing I was actually catching were the brown trout, and that's only because I had dealt with them earlier at the fork. The rest of the fish were brand new. So after a few casts and a few bites, I went back to the shop to learn about the fish I had seen at the dam, plus spend a bit of extra cash on upgrades. That's when I learned I could use certain lures to jig the fish and not just wait for them to latch on. So after heading out, I managed to jig my first fish. You could say that this one's the shittiest one of them all. In the same trip, I also managed to snag a largemouth bass. Pretty alright if you ask me. So with 3 out of the 5 fish caught at the dam, I head back to the shop to buy lures. Luckily for me, I had just enough for the drop shot and the jig head, plus an extra $1 tip for Rusty. Apparently this was enough to prompt him to share his third location with me, the Mistwood. But before I headed there, I wanted to catch the rest of the fish at the dam to fill out my fishing journal. I went right over to where the bullhead catfish were and cleared every single last one of those suckers out. I then went over and caught several largemouth bass to fill out my inventory. And to my luck, I caught the biggest one yet. And it was the biggest payday yet from a single fish, at a whopping $83. Yahoo! So needless to say, I had a little bit of spending to do at the shop. Knowing I had 1 fish at the dam yet to catch, I bought the rest of the available lures, as well as a couple strength upgrades for my Maple Scout rod. But before clearing out the dam, I wanted to try my luck at catching the biggest walleye at the fork, just to beat little Evie Jean's record. No kid can outfish Hog and I. While I was able to catch a solid 7 and 9 pound walleyes, I couldn't catch the gymongous boy because my rod was just not strong enough. So I'll have to wait until I upgrade my rod and come back again for him. I went back to Rusty's and set my sights on the Timberjack, a mega rod that was capable of catching the biggest walleye in the fork. So with that in mind, I went to the new location to see what all the hullabaloo was about. And I'm not gonna lie, this place at night was very spooky. The mist and the old derelict cabin was creeping me out. But on the bright side, there were a lot of new fish species here. There were a lot of new fish species here. There were a lot of new fish species here. There were a lot of new fish species here, like the burba, which I originally thought were just more bullhead catfish, but when they gave me quite the fight, I knew something was up. I also caught a trophy weight rock bass here. On my first run in the Mistwood, I caught all but the chub, so I'll be coming back for him later. This was also my biggest haul yet. The burba brought in so much cash, it's not even funny. This allowed me to purchase the timberjack as well as all the strength upgrades. Then back off to the fork I went. With my sights set on this mega walleye, I went in for the kill. Casting at a comfortable 30 degrees in a 5-knot headwind, I knew this wasn't gonna be easy, and I was right. After 2 failed attempts, even with the new rod, he was testing my patience. So I nabbed his only other friend and then devised a plan so devious that I thought I was on my own villain arc. My plan was to lure him so close to the boat and then try to jig him so as to reel him in only 1 foot away. And lo and behold, it worked. I got the giant walleye and back to Rusty I went with a smile on my face. This also got me the achievement Legendary White Tip, as well as the others that were backlogged from earlier. Rusty was very impressed by my mega catch, and then after a small donation of $1 to bring my current total to $420. He showed me a new fishing rod, and this one was blue, so you know I had to buy it. But before I tried that one out, I head back once again to the dam to catch the final undiscovered fish. Oh, and look who it is. It's your girlfriend. After catching that and the biggest trout in the dam, which somehow isn't a trophy catch, it was back to the shop I went, where I then learned about the legendary bass that only lurks during dusk. So knowing that the largemouth bass is back at the dam, I went there and snoozed until sunset, waiting for the big boy to show up. To my surprise, I actually landed him in my first attempt, netting me a cool 169 bucks. Nice. This gave me the achievement Legendary Bucket Mouth. After catching all the fish in the Golden Fork River, I bought a license at the shop to fish at Fawn Lake. I'm not sure what kind of freshwater fish lurk here, but I hope they're fat and juicy. My biggest problem with this new biome was finding the perfect rod and lure combo for all these new fish. But after reading up on the fish type in my journal, I managed to snag a Cisco, trigger trout, and a yellow perch. I feel like this is where the game went from fun, casual, chill fishing simulator to pro fishing, try hard, cool guy simulator. Not just because of the big newer fish, but also because of the achievement Fish Whisperer, where I not only have to catch, but also release every type of fish. So if I want more money plus this achievement, I will have to catch double, triple, maybe even 4 times the amount of fish. After snagging the pike and rainbow trout in the underwater meadow, Rusty told me about another spot on the lake, Picnic Point. So without hesitation, I pack up my gear and head over to see if Rusty's tales are true. Getting there, I realized there were a couple of the same fish from last time, which saved me from having to catch and release them all again. After discovering all the fish in the area, Rusty tried to sell me this phantom line rod, which is near invisible to certain fish. Now I wish I could afford it, but unfortunately I'm in a little bit of a financial pickle at the moment. So I decided maybe I should go back fishing in some classic spots, just to help out my wallet a little bit. So off I went, fishing like I've never fished before. This was a great opportunity to catch and release some of the fish I hadn't before. Plus, those burbot in the Mistwood are so expensive. So after a couple of those, I was sitting pretty with 500 bucks to my name. This is also where I obtained the above board achievement for catching the large burbot without looking underwater. But for some reason the bug was back and I didn't get the notification till later. So here it is now. I then used my newly found 500 bucks, not on the new sleek rod, but on the leaky bucket, a crappy motorboat plus maxed out upgrades for it. My hope is that I can get back and forth across the lake faster, since the canoe was hella slow. But to my excitement, it was everything I had imagined. After casually fishing for a bit longer, I finally had enough for the new phantom rod. With that new rod in my pack, I head back to the new location on the lake. I went down to where the Moon Eye School pool. Once I was able to catch the Moon Eye and the other 2 remaining fish in the lake, Rusty got talking about common carp over at Fisherman's Rest. And honestly, a rest sounds real nice right about now. So as I rest my head to sleep, let me tell you about today's sponsor. Hey everybody, it's me. Sponsor today is me. If you guys actually want to subscribe, that would be very cool. I'd really appreciate it. Go check out my Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, all that fun stuff. Thanks. Okay, back to the video. After a couple runs trying to get the 500 bucks I needed to get the next fishing license, I managed to come up $1 short. I really got to stop tipping Rusty. But this allowed the XL common carps to respawn, giving me a great opportunity to catch them without looking under the water for the achievement Overachiever. And just like the last one, this one didn't show up till later. Womp womp. With 2 of these big bad boys under my belt, I had just enough for the new license and some rod upgrades. Now off to Grizzly Ridge River, I find myself at the base of the rapids. The aurora is really beautiful this time of year. First thing I did here was travel all the way to the end, which was really far, like really far. This location is big, and along my travels, I saw this creepy pair of eyes staring at me. I then came across this monster of a muskie. Before I attempt to get him, I test my skills on 2 other pretty decent sized muskies. And when I felt I was ready, I cast my line and had it perfectly lined up with this monster. Unfortunately, this big bitch had different plans. With my plans foiled again, I went back to see Rusty to see if he had any words of encouragement. He really didn't. He basically said, give up and go to the next location. But then he told me about the new rod, the Grizzly rod. And this was just what I needed. Because those regular muskies were tough enough, there would be no way I would pull the monster muskie with the rods I have. However, the price was pretty steep, so fish I must. And it really took me only 3 more muskies to get the money I so desperately needed. And bing bang boom, I was off to catch the monster muskie. and Jesus, this thing was some big. I lost it the first time, and the second time I had it on the line, it got stuck up on the land. He eventually got down, but then I lost him again. By the third time I lost him, I realized my line wasn't big enough to let it run. So just as I was about to head back to the shop, it came after my line once again. This time it came so close to the boat that I thought I'd get it right away, but it snuck off to my right and hit the rocks again. I knew if it went further left, I'd lose it. So while it was above water, I tried to reel it much harder, and Lord knows it worked. Catching the legendary monster musky nabbed me the legendary water wolf achievement, and this is when the overachievement loaded in too, even though I had done that earlier. As I came back through to the shop, the grizzlies from the caves came out to fish some salmon, which was a very cool sight. I finished up here by catching and releasing the other variations of salmon. Once done with that task, I was up to like $1,000. I was overwhelmed, and I'm not a good saver, because if I was any good, I would have saved to buy the next fishing license. But instead, I just bought me a ton of rod upgrades. While I do need those for an achievement, I think I could have saved my money for the next location. Regardless, the fishing at Eagle's Nest went very quickly. I felt like I was on top of my game at this point. And with no legendaries in this location, I could get in and out without much fussing around. Now that I didn't save the money from earlier, I am in quite the predicament. I have close to 0 monies, so all I can do now is fish. I opted to fish for the muskies as they were close by and worth a bunch. After what felt like forever fishing, I finally made enough to buy the license for Icewater Sea and headed out to the first dock at Watcher's Point. There's this really sick lighthouse here and some pretty beefy sea fish. I caught and released all once as per usual, with the yellow rockeye fish being a trophy catch. Then also per usual, Rusty gave me another spot to check out nearby. This one was Craggy Reef. But wait, there's more! Rusty cannot stop cooking, as this time he brought something that will change the fishing game forever. This is the new Horizon Caster. It's a rod specifically for deep sea fishing. This Rusty guy is making a mint off me. While I don't have the money for it now, I head into Craggy Reef. My first catch here was actually pretty killer. It was a trophy weight coho salmon, but there's actually only one new species of fish here, so I'm a little disappointed. However, this just means I have fewer fish to fry, and that's alright with me. This new type of fish, however, turns out to be the king salmon, which I need to catch a legendary of. Plus, now that I've discovered it, I can go to Rusty and buy the lure. This means that I only have one hidden lure remaining. Now equipped with the glide bait lure, I'm going for the kill. Actually, not quite yet, because as soon as I get over to my spot, I realize my line isn't long enough. So back to the shop to fully upgrade my Grizzly rod. That brings all my current rods to full upgrades. So with the king salmon still on the loose, I'm off to get him once again. And once again, I fail instantly. As with the king salmon, I actually do need the Horizon Caster. Who would have thought that Rusty isn't just trying to sell me fish oil? So now that I need money yet again, I'm back to the Grizzly Ridge River, looking for more muskies. After nabbing a couple, I decided I want to work on getting trophy catches, since I need them and they're cash anyway. So I went back to the Mistwood where I caught the mega 9-ounce chub, and then had to wait until dusk to catch the elusive trophy weight burba. Grabbing this big boy got me the legendary slime belly achievement. That burba actually pushed me to about the monetary value I needed for the new rod. So I snagged it and back to the king salmon I went. Finally, I was able to catch 2 right away. However, neither were trophy catches, but don't worry as Rusty has a new plaque for the trophy king salmon, which he says lies in the next area of Safety Cove. Heading there, I quickly find the school of king salmon. Surely one of them must be the king of them all. I hook the first one, and after a bit of a fight, I get him on the boat. He's my biggest so far, but still not trophy weight. So I try for another. Again, biggest yet, but still not quite the weight I need. The third is the exact same. Bigger, but not the trophy. With no luck, I head back to the shop and purchase my final lure available. I then fully upgrade my Horizon Caster and head back out, hoping this time will be the time. It was during the sunset that I saw the tips of him emerge. Like a great beast out of a cave, he cometh. It did take a while for him to actually bite, but when he did, oh boy, did he ever. He charged up right out of the water, slamming down with all his might. It looked as if for a second he was giving up, when we had only started the fight. He came up right beside the boat, and then all of a sudden splashed down beneath the water yet again. Hog during all of this was, well, Hog was just happy to be here. But I was fighting for my life, my dignity, and my freedom. For if I was to lose a great beast as he, there would be no freedom for which my state of mind could be. This was my longest battle yet, and it was well fought on both sides. I'd gain ground, then he would take off halfway across the open sea. There were moments he would shoot out of the depths with such force, it was as if he was showing his power, and to say that he would never give in. It must have been at least a fierce 5-minute battle, but in the end, only one of us would tire. 'Twas today I became a fisherman. With all that excitement, I almost forgot that I was only about halfway to 100%ing the game, so continue I must. With the funds secured by the true king of the waters, and the new king salmon hanging up on Rusty's wall, I bought my next license for the old wreck bay. Here, there were some new fish, including the flattest fish of them all, the halibut. I couldn't get any trophy weights here, but for the most part, it was just standard catch and release as usual. Once that was done, I headed back to the shop where Rusty gave me more tips on the striped bass over at Seal's Rest. You know, I never thought about it, but seals need rest too. Looking at my journal, there were only 2 new kinds of fish here to discover, so I was very excited to finish another part of this journey. The first new fish I caught here was the capelin. I managed to snag a trophy weight chum salmon here, as well as discover the last fish in my journal, the Greenland halibut. Once I caught that sucker, I was given the Fish Finder achievement for discovering every species of fish. I caught a second one right after just to release it, and that's also when I obtained the Fish Whisperer achievement. This one is the rarest one yet. Before I went to the shop, I also caught the trophy weighted Dolly Varden, a stellar name for a fish if you ask me. With all my rods fully upgraded and licenses purchased, the only things I had to buy now were the boats. And to be honest, I've made it this far and I feel like I didn't need to upgrade, so let's just see how different these boats can actually be. I started with the Loon Chaser and took her out into Seal's Rest. It handled great, but it wasn't something I particularly needed. It did have a nice little seat for me to sit on as I fished though, so I fished some more halibut until I had enough to purchase the final boat. This one didn't come easy though. At a $5,000 price tag, this requires some real fishing. I did manage to snag the trophy weighted Greenland halibut and capelin while I was here too. Once I did purchase the final boat though, I tested it out on the water, and even though I didn't have the max speed upgrades on it, I found it to be a little less responsive than the others. More so that it took time to slow down, but I guess that's probably just the sheer size of it. Now with the halibut fished out of the ocean, I head back and get the final upgrades for the boat. This gets me the Rusty's #1 customer achievement. Now, the only thing left to do is to catch all trophy weights for all species. Now this achievement is going to be the most tedious part of all. I managed to catch the trophy weight Pacific halibut, which got me the legendary Dock Breaker achievement. This also got me $1,146. I think that's the biggest sale yet. Then right after that, I caught the trophy weighted sockeye salmon. 2 catches after that, I netted the trophy weighted Lucon. And with those done, the only one I had left to get in the old wreck bay was the striped bass. As with no luck in Diver's Drop, I went back to Seal's Rest to see if I could find him. I spent like 45 minutes looking for this dude, but to no avail. So I decided I'd come back for him after clearing out everywhere else I could. So off to Safety Cove I went. Here I still needed 4 out of 5 trophy fish, since I had already previously caught the king salmon here. I managed to pull in the trophy herring, but knew that the other 2 were also in Watcher's Point. So I went over there hoping to reel in those big boys. And just my luck that I came across the Atlantic salmon. I hooked one and then saw this absolute unit. So I quickly got this little sucker off my line and attempted to catch this big boy. Unfortunately, he got off my line twice, so I had to use my Horizon caster. This did the trick, even though he did put up a tough fight. This got me the legendary Tide Runner achievement. At this time, it probably seems like I'm doing a lot of running around, but that's because I am. This is because that getting all of these trophy fish is so tedious, it's literally taking me hours to try to get them. So in order to make a long video short, let me speed this up a bit and go through the trophy fish a bit quicker. Next trophy fish I caught was the lingcod, and this netted me the legendary Reef Growler achievement. Next up was the Masu salmon, which I got shortly after. Now with all of Icewater Sea done, I headed back to the old wreck in search of the striped bass. While I was here, I nabbed the Whoa Nelly achievement for catching an XXL sized fish without looking underwater. This one also didn't pop up until I exited the game, but here it is for you. I ended up getting the trophy weighted striped bass not long after this, which gave me the legendary Bay Wanderer achievement. Now with 2 full regions done, I moved back down the list and into Fawn Lake, where I needed to catch a staggering 12 out of 15 trophy fish. I don't know what I was doing here earlier, but I must have been snoozing around. So first stop was Fisherman's Rest. Here I grabbed the round whitefish, goldeye, and the Arctic char. I then struggled with the trophy common carp to obtain the legendary Mud King achievement. With Fisherman's Rest done, I moved to Picnic Point. Here I snagged the trophy weights for the bluegill sunfish, trigger trout, and the lake trout, where I got the legendary Quiet Giant achievement. Now off to the underwater meadow, I caught the trophy weights for the Cisco, yellow perch, rainbow trout, and finally the northern pike. That's where I got the legendary Tooth Terror achievement. After clearing out Fawn Lake, I went back to probably my favorite location of the game, Grizzly Ridge River. This river was much easier as I only had 3 trophy fish to catch here: the Arctic grayling, the long-nosed dace, and the cutthroat trout, which I got the legendary Ember Jaw achievement for. Finally, I made it back to where it all began, the Golden Fork River. I already have all the trophies in the Mistwood, so I start out in the Beaver Dam. Here, I just need the brown trout. Luckily for me, I end up catching it right off the bat. And that means I only have 1 more spot in the Golden Fork River to go. And it just so happens to be the first location I started in, catching the very first fish I caught of the game. So as I hauled out my little guppy fishing pole and the bobber to go with it, I cast, and by the grace of my great fishing abilities, I haul up the trophy weight threadfin. From that, I finally get the very last achievement, Trophy Hunter. And that is how you 100% cast and chill.